Empty Sun, she's eating dinner, so okay, that's great. All right. So welcome back, everyone, to our ongoing quest to build a culture of empathy. As always, we're recording this call for educational and promotional purposes. And today we'd like to start out again with a round of short check-ins. So we'll just have everyone take about 30 seconds to share if you have any questions, comments from the last session, or how your empathy buddy call was, or a short report from facilitating an empathy circle this last week. So I'll call on people so we can move through quickly. Again, about 30 seconds each. And Graham, could we start with you today?
Yeah, you may. I'm glad to be here. I'm in a good space. There's one exception where there was a hiccup, but all my empathy sessions have gone really well. And I set up an empathy circle of my own this week. And that was quite an experience. So I'm excited to be here. Hello, everybody. Yeah.
Fantastic, Graham. Congrats.
Thanks.
And Herbert.
Yeah, last time I was stressed and annoyed, and so I was not a good participant. But this time I'm relaxed and looking forward, so hopefully we'll be better. Last Sunday I had my weekly empathy launch, and it was really exceptional good. We talked about conflicts and how we did this kind of active listening so that could go deeper into the whole situation, and everybody learned something. So wonderful.
Really happy to have you, Herbert. And Elsa Marie.
Hello, everyone. Good evening from Mumbai. I had a great buddy call with Claire, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to host an empathy circle this past week. But I'm looking forward to the coming week where I will be hosting one. So lovely to be here again and looking forward to the session.
Excellent. Thanks, Elsa Marie. Lynette. You may be still muted. I'm not hearing you.
So she's not muted, but we are not hearing her. So there's something wrong with her microphone.
Can I come back to you, Lynette, while you work on that? Okay. Linda.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really disappointed that I haven't been able to have an empathy buddy call for the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to make huge efforts to manage that this week. Yeah, I really want to have a call. Yeah, I've just been so busy.
Well, hopefully today will be great, and then I'll be excited for your one this week. Yeah. Anish.
Thank you. I'm here again as a floater. That's the term that I'm getting used to. Mm-hmm. I'm currently enjoying the process of a visioning exercise that I'm creating for myself and for the next 10 years. So I see that empathy seems to be the recurring theme in that. So just coming back to the space to learn more and more is what is most exciting about the space. So that's me. That's how I am at this moment. Thank you.
Super. Welcome back again. And Celine.
Well, I'm doing well. I had an empathy circle last Friday that I was pretty concerned about. People had very differing views and it worked out really well. So it's like, yes, it worked. And they listened and they felt relieved. And this evening, I'm going to also do empathy circles work in an NVC class on building bridges across differences, something like that. So I'm looking forward to that also. Happy to be here.
And Anatoly.
Hi. So I again didn't have an empathy circle, but I'm going to have some in the next few weeks. So I'm excited about that. I did have a great body call, and we did a little experiment, I suppose, where I mean, we try like to talk naturally, but just be aware of how we naturally want to reflect. It was interesting to see like how learning, like practicing to reflect, like in the technical way of the circle, like it affects like just regular conversation during the day where you start reflecting because you want to. So it was really interesting to see how that works.
Very cool.
That's all.
Wonderful. Heather.
Hello.
Hi.
I had a good and quick chat with Michelle, my buddy, this week. It was really good. I had some definite ahas. I had a really good circle on Monday. And one of the challenges that Aaron, we practiced with you, came up, and I was like, I know how to handle this. So that felt really good. I could just jump right in there. And then personally, I'm being stretched in my empathy muscle because over the past week, I've had 2 really challenging conversations. So it's making me do a lot of introspection and a lot of personal empathy work. So that's really good as well.
Excellent. And thank you, Heather. Claire?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Apologies for being slightly late. I had a really lovely conversation with Elsa Marie, really talking about the value of empathy in various different spaces. And I'm actually preparing for a training that I'm giving tomorrow to a company in Paris that I'm trying to think how I can bring in this idea of active listening and empathy circles in a very condensed way to get people thinking differently about the kind of services and approaches that they're using. So I'm feeling really, this has given me so much in terms of self-reflection and skills. So it's been good.
Great to hear. We'll want to hear more, report back on that. And Renee.
Hi, everybody. I'm doing really well. I just got 3 new chickens and introducing them to the other animals that I have. So it's an exciting personal thing. I was able to run, integrate into a practice group that I run and in a women's empathy circle, the practices that we've been learning here. And the Women's Empathy Circle actually requested it. We had tried it last week and they really enjoyed it. So really seeing how I can integrate it into ongoing circles that I'm running. I had a great conversation with my buddy this week and really enjoyed that. And I need to switch to another device today around 2:15 because I am on schedule to get my first COVID shot. So didn't have any choice in when that appointment was. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about my maybe disappearing.
Oh, thanks for letting us
Thank
know.
you.
And Amy.
Hi, everybody. Amy here. I had a lovely conversation with Rasha. She's in India and I'm here in DC. So we had on opposite sides of the time zones here, but just a great conversation about her empathy university that she's starting up and my book. So it was really lovely and some potential collaborations there. And I also did a empathy circle yesterday. I do them on Tuesdays and it went so well. And there were some new faces that joined and some more collaborations around empathy as well. So a lot of positivity this week.
Yay, great. Thanks, Amy. And Rasha.
Hi. The feeling is very mutual. What Amy said, we had an amazing call, a lot of discussions around empathy, her book around empathy, my work around empathy. So it was really great. And really hoping to collaborate at some point with Amy as well. And as part of my work, there is the certification course that is due to start the coming week. And I've been so busy, working around it, setting it up, and the first cohort or the first batch is joining. So I've been very busy with that. But in the middle, I did, organize one empathy circle, but because a few members couldn't make it, it's going to happen tomorrow. So hopefully I'll have a good call tomorrow. And other than that, that's where I am. Looking forward as usual to this session.
Great. And Lynette. Let's see, you're on mute now. So maybe if you're, let's Tracy.
Does that help? Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, I did not unfortunately get to connect with my empathy buddy this week. And so what I did do instead, however, is to connect with my one of my city councilors and one of the Edmonton MLAs to introduce empathy circles to them. The one in Edmonton had a show on global on the news, a documentary or something that came up with the fact that he couldn't communicate with other people around the politician areas and stuff. So I thought, I'll just write him and see what happens. And so, yeah, we've connected and it's quite cool. So I'm looking forward to those meetings.
It's very cool. Thanks, Lynette. And Ichi-san.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. I had a lovely buddy call with Graham, and it even, in fact, extended into him participating in my facilitation group, so which was a double bonus, which was beautiful. And I had a few more aha moments with running empathy circles. And yeah, I realized empathy has a twin sister, a twin brother, which is called compassion and self-compassion. So that was a big learning. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Ichi-san. And Michelle.
Yeah, I had a quieter week this week, so I didn't do any facilitation, but I did have my buddy call, and it kind of just it showed me like the power of them, like, because I found like it just really helped me work through some like big challenges. So I'm really grateful for it. So yeah, thanks, Lou. Really helped an awful lot. So it's just it's making me really grateful for this training. It's big changes.
Thanks, Michelle. And Timothy.
Hi, everybody. I am grateful for the radio show I got to host this last Sunday, where I just invited a friend of mine to come on and discuss a difficult conversation that he had. And I just reflected his experience, and then we drew some wisdom out of his story for creating a checklist around planning for difficult conversations with nonviolent communication and empathy as part of it. And I was really touched that he was willing to be so open and honest for the public. And so that was meaningful for me this week. That was like my little empathy circle experience, and it was public, and it was meaningful. And I'm also just enjoying hearing everybody speak, and it feels like a springtime from where where I live, where there's a lot of life and gratitude and movement in this group. So I'm just enjoying hearing all that right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Timothy. Lou.
I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really inspired hearing all the different things that people are doing and what you're learning from it. I had a wonderful empathy buddy call with Michelle this week, and which actually helped me to see something about how I sometimes when people are being very judgmental, I get judgmental about them being judgmental rather than offering something constructive, and so that is really helpful for me, and I plan to try to do that differently. And I also had some pretty challenging conversations this week where I used empathy just to listen, instead of jumping into problem solving. So it's really easy when someone comes to me with they're in a strong emotional state and they have a problem. It's really easy for me to jump into problem solving, but I remembered empathy first. So that was really helpful.
Thanks, Lou. And Bill.
Well, I had a great call, an empathy buddy call with you, Erin. So I really enjoyed that. Then, doing some work on another kind of module, and that went well. But it's been kind of tough. I'm a retired special education teacher, and I taught real kids who are really in tough circumstances. And a former student of mine was shot the other day. You know, so that's been kind of tough. And my cat got injured. He's at the vet now. I think he'll be okay. But so I'm just a little bit stressed out. But I have to really say that I want to emphasize what Lou said. I'm really impressed with what you all are doing, and very encouraged, especially when I see what's going on in the news. I have to refer to these groups to retain my sanity. So thank you.
Second that. Edwin.
Yeah, I want to third that too. It's just to see that this is a pebble in the pond, but it's sending out all these ripples, and it's just fantastic to see that. I had an empathy buddy call with Timothy, and I really appreciated that. Felt we kind of developed, the relationship got deeper from it, and building deeper connections. So I was really appreciative of that. I've been working on the empathy circles with the Congress, and it's like I think the empathy circle is just like 5% of the work. It's all the work, is all the organization and the structure and all the stuff that it takes to come to that. So it's a lot of reaching out and making calls and emails. It's a big job. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks for doing that work, Lou. Or sorry, Edwin. I'm looking around. So I'm just going to do a real brief check-in, and then Timothy will start addressing the session feedback. So yeah, I had a pretty good week and was practicing a lot of self-empathy this week. Got to talk to Bill yesterday in our empathy buddy call, and that was very helpful. And I'm just looking forward to today. So now for Timothy, you have an opportunity to go through some of the feedback that we had from last session. And so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Erin. My intention is to honor.
You went, we lost you, Timothy.
Yeah, he's frozen. We'll see if he comes back.
Man, can you hear me?
You're
Okay.
back now. We can hear you.
Okay. My intention is to honor the questions that 6 of you posted in the feedback form from last week, and to name those questions and sit with them for a second, and then maybe offer a couple of tips to help you move towards more clarity. So let's see here. The first one that stood out was the concern that someone in a circle could use profanity or racist language or really intense, emotional, maybe unacceptable language to some people, and lead to someone else being, or even the facilitator, being triggered with pain or overwhelm, maybe somebody leaves the group or something like that happens. And so, just wanted to honor that fear and concern when we set up a container. And there are ways that it could maybe break, right? That would be painful, right? We're trying to set up the conditions for empathy. So just to honor that fear and that concern. And we want to offer a couple thoughts to you. Number one is to really do our best as facilitators to stay with the process itself, to firmly and clearly remind and coach folks to stay within maybe a 5-minute expression, and to remember that everybody's going to have a chance within the time available in this particular circle to express. And what we see is the process through listening. Even if someone is intense and using really intense language, listening can calm and transform that. And, we were talking about this as that kind of a robust and a solid process. And I was talking to Edwin, Edwin, have you ever had to kick anybody out of a circle ever in all your experience? And he said, no, I never have, never. And so there's kind of a reminder to trust the process. Also, we were talking about sometimes though, when someone is expressing so intensely, that the capacity of the group to even attend and be present, everybody gets overwhelmed, And therefore the actual structure is impossible to maintain. Now, there's different levels of that for different groups. So we want to honor that as a facilitator, you might want to continue to acknowledge your capacity to track and gauge the group in terms of how the group is able to even continue participating. And sometimes if several people are overwhelmed, it's time to call a pause and maybe make a request, noticing certain kinds of expression, to pause and see what else can happen. So just also knowing that as a facilitator, that's our capacity to time out and express an observation of what might be happening, and then re-solidify some agreements for how to proceed. So it's the process is strong. As a facilitator, we can still step in and make some requests for folks around language. So just a couple thoughts there about that one. Let's see. Also, remembering that the Empathy Circle is not therapy. As a facilitator, we're holding a container for folks to participate in mutual listening. So if somebody is in a deep level of pain, one thing is obviously check in with them afterwards and see if you can offer some more listening. But also, depending on the setting you're in, as a facilitator, it helps me relax to have some resources where to send folks if they need further support. Or even wherever in the setting you're in, maybe there's resources right there that are directly available to offer more support for emotional balance and well-being. Let's see, somebody else asked, what happens if a listener is showing that they're not listening actually on the phone, or said that the top of their head is down and they're taking notes, when somebody is speaking, and then is not reflecting when given the opportunity. So what do I do in that moment, right? My thought about that is just doing a gentle pause or interruption and offer an observation. Hey, I noticed when the speaker paused and you didn't respond with a reflection, and wanted to really give you an opportunity to do that. I'm wondering if that sounds good going forward. Would you be willing to do that? I might make a small empathic guess. I'm wondering if you're taking notes and wanting to listen really well. Is that what was going on there? Okay. So just wanted to observe that there was a pause there for you to reflect, and we'd like to invite you to do that. So it's kind of a gentle interruption and like a little maybe empathic guess about what might be going on, just to build relationship and have a little reminder there. So that's another question there. Let's see here. Somebody said, when I gather with a new group of people or even repeat circles, I like to create a container to establish community. And then after that, begin the actual meat of the circle itself. So this person was asking, well, in this style of empathy circles, do most facilitators just begin with the intro and the roles and the topic and then begin rounds? Or what about, building community and arriving? And, our response to that is like, from my perspective, those are two slightly different things, right? Like gathering and relaxing and welcoming and how you doing and just settling in before starting the formal circle would be absolutely, I would encourage that, absolutely, and do whatever you like, whatever ritual or gathering or light a candle or whatever, depending on the setting. Oh my gosh, yes, I would encourage that, how you do that. And then introducing the circle itself, practicing the roles and the specifics about it, and then introducing it there. So I would say, yes, gather folks however you want, and where folks are able to experience that sense of welcome. Let's see, a couple more questions here to name. Somebody would like to hear samples or see examples of approaches for how I or you might invite people to participate in empathy circles. This has been an important question for me. For me, that's 51% of the empathy equation, like the willingness to sit down and listen, for me, if I'm inviting somebody to an empathy circle, I would say, hey, got this opportunity to speak and be heard to our satisfaction, and to have a conversation that provides a little more support for folks being fully heard than regular conversation. And, it's called an empathy circle, and it's got this kind of a basic structure where we can actually slow down and really hear each other, but also hear ourselves, And I've got this topic that I'm really passionate about, I'm really interested in, and I really would like to hear what you have to say about it. And I'd like to be able to share what I have to say and have you hear that. And this little process is something that I found is really helpful. And I'm wondering if you might be interested in hearing more about that. So I might introduce it like that. Bill had the idea, well, you could also just offer the experience of reflection and empathy and say, hey, I'm working on this, on folks communicating and connecting. And, I wanted to ask you about something and kind of show you what I'm talking about and see if it works for you, and so I'd love for you to, I've got a question for you, and I'd love to just hear what you're saying and see if I'm understanding it. And try that for a few minutes and just show you what I'm talking about, and then just demonstrate it with somebody. And so that's kind of a nice idea to invite people in, is show them. So those are a couple thoughts of making invitations. We wouldn't encourage you to go into all the minute details of what is an empathy circle, but talking about the benefits and value for you and in your setting. So that's a little thought there. And then just for another minute here, we are noticing that folks, sometimes face challenges or feel anxious before approaching an empathy circle. And we just want to acknowledge that. That anxiety for me comes from carrying so much about bringing empathy forward into the world and wanting to be successful. And what does success look like for me? And so, we encourage you to return to those practices that not only help your body calm down, some deep breathing, stretching, shake it out, but also help calm your own nervous system. And that would be seeking empathy from somebody else, or an ally, or a person that knows you well and can hear your concerns and your worries. And, we find that empathy itself calms anxiety. And so just remembering your practices to bring you back to a perspective that can help you approach and guide a group. So that's it for me. What we want to do is move into breakout rooms again. I want to hand it over to Lou, and we'll get started with that. So I hope that helped a little bit, and please continue to fill out the feedback form, and we'll keep tracking your questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Timothy. What we're going to do in the breakout rooms today is to continue practicing facilitating. So the participants will each take a turn facilitating, dividing up the amount of time in the breakout among the people who are going to practice. We're not going to practice introductions again today, but you will during and when it's your turn to facilitate, you can choose the topic, whatever topic you want. And you will have the option of having challenges presented by the instructor if you would like that. And you can, if there are particular ones that you're worried about, you can let the instructor know. Or if there's a degree of difficulty that you would like, you can let the person know that too. And it's perfectly fine, not to want any of that. So there shouldn't be any, you shouldn't feel any shame or there's something wrong with you if you don't. If where you are is you would just like to practice facilitating without any difficulty, that's fine. And the only reason that we we offer the opportunity to have challenges is because, the circles you do here in class with people who are, somewhat empathic, already interested in empathic, the circles will generally go very smoothly with the people in this group. But when you go out into the world, into the wild, and you have a circle of people maybe that you haven't invited, like I did a public listening project in my town. So that there was a public invitation and people come, and all different kinds of people come with all different levels of readiness, all different levels of understanding and, backgrounds. And so there are things that people do, like not being able to reflect or objecting to the process or things like that, that come up. And so the quote challenges is an opportunity for you to experience some of those things and see what you would do with them. But again, it's totally up to you to decide whether you're ready for that or not. Okay, so I think we're ready. Unless there are any questions, we're ready to go into the circles.
Okay, we have our 5 groups, and oops, let me just make one change here so that one group stays here in this room. So we're down one person, so I'll be joining you, Timothy, because that person was in your group. So here we go, and we have about an hour and a half, and one person just dropped out. Did they? Well.
Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they have a technical problem.
Keep a track on that. So here we go into our rooms. We have an hour and a half about, and here we go. Oh, okay. Hey, Timothy, you there? Okay, so, seem to be losing people here on the. Let's give it a second. Hopefully he'll join again. Okay, well, I can take over in the meantime. So yeah, so in this section where you're just holding the empathy circle, and you can dial up the challenges that you would like, kind of the level of, no challenge, medium, small, medium, large. So who would someone like to start? And just, you set the topic, set the time limit. So it's up to you if you want to give the full introduction or just go right into setting the topic and then the time limit, and then just dialing up a challenge level. And who would like to start?
I'm looking forward to Heather.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
I can go first. That's totally fine.
Okay.
I can skip the intro. I feel pretty good about that.
Okay.
One thing that I've added for the intro that has worked really well is I show a picture of a cake, and then I show slices of cake. It's like one. Hi, Timothy.
So I took over. I took charge.
We don't stop around Edwin.
Yeah, Heather was telling us about, you have a cake, and you show it when you introduce it. You show the slices or something. And
I don't want to practice the intro because I feel pretty good about that now. But what I've added, which people are like, oh, I get it, and they refer back to it over and over, is I say, in conversations, and it's just an image I found online of a cake and then like a slice taken out, as I say, people just try to give each other the whole cake, right? It's so much information. Try to think of your words and your thoughts as like a piece at a time, a slice at a time, so they can take it in. And so some people have been like, uh-oh, I gave you the cake. Or they'll say, oh, you need a smaller slice. And so it's, that was my visual. So that seemed to work with the intro. So I've added that a couple of times. Yeah. Oh gosh, I have so many like meta and micro questions and ideas about empathy. So I'm feeling overwhelmed from a training I did earlier today. So you can give me challenges, but I would like them to be small and manageable, because I'm surprised like brain matter is not leaking out of my ear at this point, because there's so many thoughts running around. Yeah, I can keep time. So are we doing 5 minutes per person or less, or how do you want to do the timing?
We wanted to do, Edwin, do you want me to take it from here?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we wanted about 15. Well, now that there's just 2 of you, so we can do a good, like a full, at least a good 20 minutes of actual facilitation. and then we'll pause, and then we'll debrief for about 5 minutes to see how it went and what came up for you and what your learnings are. Okay, so I'll time, where's my phone? I'll time that full 20 minutes so you can relax. So therefore, if you, depends on what you like, I wouldn't say less than 4 minutes is my experience. So 5 minutes is actually kind of nice.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll set the timer, and I don't know who I copied this from, but when the time is running low, I added the heart to it. I think that was from our last session. I'll hold this up as a reminder that time is up. So I'll try to unmute myself so you can hear the alarm go off, or I'll hold that up as well. And then if you are giving a large slice, I'll just put this up. I think this is yours, Edwin. Remember to pause. And so that's just reinforcing that. So I've been using both of those stickies. So the topic that I'm wrestling with that I think would be interesting to talk about is how have you experienced challenges using these skills personally? You've held space as a facilitator for empathy circles, but what are some of the hurdles that you've had, as someone that's like an expert or really committed to this work, and how have you addressed those? That would be great to talk about. So I'll keep the 5-minute time for each person. And anyone want to be our first speaker?
Well, I can do this. I'm fine.
Okay, who do you want to be your active listener?
Timothy.
Okay, great. Whenever you're ready. Yeah, I set the timer.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. Sometimes there are hurdles and difficulties in such empathy launches. I'm struggling in the moment with the following situation. There are 5 people, and 2 extreme ones. One is talking long and trying to comment every point. So it's never enough said until everybody has said everything, something like that, And the other person and naturally looks in the video and is active. And there's a second person who's totally the opposite. She hates to open the video. She only opened it here and there, yeah. And she's you don't see her. She doesn't talk, so you don't know whether she died or not. So this is a bit a difficult situation to balance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I do hear you acknowledging hurdles and challenges for leading empathy circles. And right now you've got 2 very prime examples. One, somebody who talks way too long, and it sounds like interrupts or comments at different times, and wants to talk more and is maybe too involved, And another person's hiding. The video is turned off on Zoom, and it's hard to even tell where this person is, even if they're alive. And for you, it sounds like this feels, both of these examples feel frustrating or disturbing to you as a facilitator.
Yeah, it's absolutely right how you describe it. And the other hurdle I see this in such situations is here and there I'm too much in a hurry. I start more or less 5 seconds after hello. Yeah, I start because I think that everybody knows why we are together. Everybody understands. Everybody agrees. So starting so fast, and I must say I'm doing this when I saw the people more often. Yeah, but not the first time, but when I see them the 3rd or 4th time, then I think I can leave this introduction thing. Yeah, actually I think I cannot. Somehow, some of the participants don't feel safe, although we are in the same situation than we were before. So
Yeah. Well, Herbert, I hear that you're coming into an awareness of the introduction. For yourself, you're becoming aware that if you go too quickly, you say, welcome, let's begin, and you skip the introduction and the reminders of why we're here and the roles. If you skip it, you can see that that actually might compromise the feeling of safety or belonging for some people. It may actually do a disservice if you skip that. So you're becoming aware of the value of doing this every time, even if it's a return group. Did I get that?
You got it absolutely right. And last but not least, I would like to mention what some of you also saw when we met last time. Stress is the #1 empathy killer. It killed me last time. So today I said I want to make it different. I had a calm day, I had a good day, but nevertheless I did some meditation and some exercises. And so I'm relaxed, and I think that's also valuable.
Yeah, I heard you say stress is the #1 empathy killer. And when last time we met, you were in the effects of some tension and stress. And you're noticing a big difference today because you gave your body an experience to release some stress, exercise, stretching, setting things aside. So this allows empathy to happen for you. And you're feeling some relief, it sounds like, for that. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. I feel fully heard. Thanks so much, Timothy.
Oh, I'm happy, Herbert. I'm happy to see the smile on your face. Well, that's me expressing myself, but I just want to say thank you. Okay, cool. I get to talk about when it gets hard to do the empathy. Heather, would you listen to me?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Heather, what came to mind personally, right? Like I practice and teach nonviolent communication, and I'm actually a social worker. So I've done a lot of work with human beings. I love human beings, and I've learned to love myself mostly. You know, things are going pretty well. But where it gets hard for me is where my heart closes for people who are doing egregious things, crossing lines to compromise the well-being of others, and all of us collectively. In one particular example.
Can I pause you between the examples?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying that you have so much experience in this area in nonviolent communication, as a social worker, and working with folks and human beings that you love. But one of the challenges that you've experienced with your personal journey with empathy is when you're encountering someone that's doing something really egregious to another person or a group of people.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. It's it. Now, what I mean by egregious is like violence. Let's look at the example of the invasion of the United States Capitol. I'm still, I just had a breakthrough yesterday, but since then, it's been almost 2 months, a month and a half now. I've still got deep resentment and pain about that.
I do too, Timothy. It's like, it's terrible that what they did there. They just came, and isn't it horrible what happened? I mean, it's like our democracy is democracy. It's like, fight for the democracy. Let's get our democracy back, right?
Oh, a little bit too obvious.
Fight for this.
You're a little too obvious. Edwin, thank you so much for your passionate contribution, but let's really give Timothy some time to have his 5 minutes, and then you will have your chance. But I'm so glad you feel aligned. And so, yeah, and Timothy, thank you for connecting.
Yeah, but Heather, it's very, very kind of you, but in the end of the day, you must admit democracy is not the answer to everything. I mean, sometimes people need guidance like we do here. See, Edwin, he's very autocratic.
What?
He doesn't leave us free.
Humans have a connection for self-guidance. This is democracy, together, working together to guide ourselves. Herbert, who are you?
So if we can come back and remember the 4 roles that we talked about pretending I did the intro. Remember, we're going to have someone that is the speaker at the moment. And so that's just their time without interruption, without additional pieces that you might want to contribute, just their time. And then the active listener is just really listening to what they're saying. So I'm jumping into my facilitator role to just remind us all. So let's really try to commit to that so that Timothy can feel fully heard and I can do a great job as listener, just focusing on Timothy without other distractions. Does that sound okay?
In other words, back down
that's
and
fine.
be quiet.
Thank you.
Quiet, Herbert, be quiet, Edwin.
Yeah, I learned it now.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we're back on track. You have about a minute and a half, Timothy.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say I do like hearing from Herbert, even though I disagree with him. And I like hearing from Edwin because he agrees with me. I do like hearing from both of them, but I guess they're going to get their turn. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Get
yes.
their turn. All right.
You're going to have their moment, yes.
Anyway, all right. So what I wanted to say is for me, it's difficult, my rage and my fury at not just the invasion of, right, the protection and space of democracy, right, that protects everybody. But that there's this, what's the word? I actually do need help right now. Entitlement. Ooh, that makes me furious. You know, like, oh, we can get away with this, and no, you know, and then of course, and then also, yeah, the entitlement, and then all the belief system underneath it with all the conspiracy that's just not true.
Okay, so it sounds like what really is upsetting is this sense of entitlement that's backed up with conspiracy theory, this feeling that, you know, there's a group of individuals that feel like they can just upend democracy that
Right,
you know,
right.
hold dear.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is I had a little breakthrough though. I mean, it was taking me a long time, but something came to me that helped me remember empathy. The other day I realized that no matter who somebody is, everybody needs a place to belong. Everybody, no matter who it is, needs a place to belong. So, you know, I don't want to punish and imprison all these guys because, you know, they're just having feelings and they have history and they're afraid of stuff and they care about stuff, right? So, you know, just to finish up, it's just like that. I just remembered that, like, you know, people are doing things for a good reason, a good emotional reason. So just, I don't know, I had a little breakthrough on that, but it's still hard.
Yeah, yeah. What you shared was that you've been thinking more about people's motivations.
Yeah.
And all humans, it sounds like regardless of their beliefs, you know, really are looking for a sense of belonging. So you're trying to think about that even if you might not agree with those folks, they're pursuing similar things that all people want, and you want to better understand that.
Thank you so much, Heather. I feel completely and fully heard.
Oh, you guys gave me, like, I would say medium to hard instead of small challenges, but thank you for letting me practice. Okay, Edwin, will you be my listener?
Listening.
Okay. Oh gosh, let me set my alarm for myself. My challenge with empathy was last week. An example, I had a conversation with a person that this person is very conservative compared to me and sees the world in a different way than I do. And I could sense that, but he is very powerful, I would say, in like traditional realms, very influential. And so it really inhibited my ability to speak freely and authentically.
Okay, so a challenge that you had is you're speaking with someone who's very influential in their world. He's conservative, and you could sense that, and that you felt the inhibition, feeling inhibited, that you could speak freely in his presence.
Yes, and
I just wanted to say, like, good job pausing, like giving Edwin a little chunk to reflect there. That was really great. I'm really learning this, and like, awesome. Thank you. That was great.
That's great, Timothy. Thank you for that feedback. That's great. So I'll keep speaking with Edwin's, but yeah, let's hang on to those comments for our debrief at the very end.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Sorry about that.
No, no worries. That's fine. We'll have about 20 minutes to have a chat outside of the structure.
Oh, great. Okay.
The next piece that really stood out to me was this person. I left the conversation feeling angry and misunderstood and kind of dominated in a weird way. And this person had a very different experience of that conversation and actually posted about it on LinkedIn, saying like, we were so values aligned, but divergent in our beliefs, and what a wonderful conversation we had. So I'll stop there.
So it was you both had very different experiences of it. You felt like sort of dominated, didn't feel heard. You were feeling frustrated and like irritated. And he posted it was like a great conversation, and he felt like an alignment, even though you had maybe some different ideas. So kind of two different complete views.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it was so interesting because he said, he acknowledged during the conversation that our belief systems and beliefs were different, but we were values aligned. And I thought that was pretty audacious to tell me that I was values aligned with him. And and I'm just leaving it, right? I'm just leaving it behind, but it's something that is like, it is in my head, and it's interesting. Yeah, I'll stop there and I'll break into another point.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're kind of leaving it, kind of dropping it, but it's still with you. Kind of the feelings around this you're still sort of holding it.
And I'm trying to be really thoughtful about like, why was it so triggering? Why was it so frustrating? And I also realized, and this is really connected to empathy, I find that most of the people I have conversations with, I am aligned with. We do share the same values. We do share the same beliefs. So it's almost like, how did he get in? Like this, I realized that I'm pretty similar with most folks that I am talking to.
So since you're usually with people that are aligned with you, and somehow he came in, I'm not into the situation, just wondering, how did he get in? So yeah.
Yeah, and it made me think, do I need to open up my folks that I spend time with so I can invite in more of these types of conversations? Or am I really not aligned with people like him that might share those same beliefs? So, you know, do I really have time to try to like influence those people, right? I don't know. So that's really the next piece that's in my head.
So you have a bit of ambivalence there. Do you kind of close your world off, stay with people who are similar to you, or do you open yourself up? And, how do you sort of navigate that?
Yes. And I had another challenging conversation this week, and I felt like I was yes-anding everything that she said just to be inclusive. But part of me didn't want a yes and. I want to be like, no, and. That's another tension. Like, that's my biggest struggle.
Yeah, so usually you yes and people, but then there's this person that you were kind of yes anding. It's like, I really don't want to be yes anding. I want to be no but.
Exactly. Yes, perfect. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay.
I had a question. What if somebody doesn't feel fully heard at the end of 5 minutes? What happens then?
Well, you can wait till your next turn. If there's more conversation you want to have around that topic, you'll have another chance to have an active listener to really express what you want to share. It's something we can talk about in the debrief.
Okay, what if we get to the end of the whole group and I still don't feel heard?
Well, I think that's a time that we could connect and find out how I might connect you with resources that might support you in feeling fully heard. Or perhaps you could join a future Empathy Circle.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, since Timothy's finally done, I'll speak to Herbert, taking my time. So, yeah, the challenges of the circle. Yeah, I don't really. I kind of got disconcerted here with Timothy talking about his feeling heard, about not feeling heard. So I'm thinking about that now.
I apologize. I really want you to have your space. I really respect you.
Listen, shut the fuck up, Timothy.
Oh, guys. No, this is not the space for this type of conversation. the empathy circles are really for constructive dialogue in a structured process. And so I want you to feel heard. I want you to express yourself, but I really want you to have time on your own, but we're also not providing space for personal attacks. So if there's...
Well, I see it's a personal attack, him taking my time. So it's like I'm trying to speak and he's like personally attack. That's an attack on my time.
I just wanted clarity. I'm really nothing against you, Edwin, at all, man. Come on, man. Dude.
I can see how you would feel frustrated, Edwin, and I can see, Timothy, that you want to try to, rectify this and speak about it. But right now, Edwin, you're using up your time right now that you could be talking about your feelings and around this topic. We have about 3.5 minutes left. So if you want to use this time to really talk about our question at hand and reflect, that would be great. And then
yeah, I do. Yeah. So I want to get back to Herbert. I'm tired of hearing you talk. So let's see. Herbert, yeah, challenges within the circle. Nothing much is coming to me for some reason in the moment, kind of no inspiration. So I'll pause there.
Okay, let me summarize what I have understood so far. It was interesting that it took you quite a while to think about some difficulties, which is maybe due to your experience already. And while you were talking about the possible challenges, suddenly Timothy came up and started a discussion with you, which was quite interesting to hear, but it was not what I thought that I should hear, because the plan was just to hear you. And so I'm grateful that he brought the whole story back, the whole situation back to the plan. And so here we are now.
Yeah, so I felt a little, I'm also a little bit distracted. There's all these distractions. There's somebody couldn't get into the Lynette, got booted out or of the session. And so I'm also like checking, trying to get her back in, and she can't get back in for some reason. We can't figure that out. So that's like a challenge, right? There's sort of like technical challenges, like, you have distractions, because as a facilitator, you got to kind of manage all these distractions, and that can be sort of, like my consciousness goes to that versus like what the topic is, even though it is part of the topic. That challenge is part of the topic. Like, what is the challenges here? Yeah.
And finally, you are reminded on the distractions which can happen here and there. One typical distraction is that you are looking on the screen and something else than this is happening. Somebody's writing something in the chat, or what you mentioned is that you have had to help somebody to come into the session.
Mm-hmm.
And so naturally your thoughts are somewhere. It's not so easy to do two things in parallel.
Yeah, it's sort of distracting. Exactly. So that's
a little time out here as the meta facilitator. Heather, your time's up. That's been 21 minutes, maybe almost 22.
Okay.
Yeah, Heather.
Hey, great.
We'll time out and pause. Thank you. Let's all do a little movement here. Shake it out.
That's crazy.
A little crazy.
Gave you a hard time, really hard time. It was very challenging. Yeah.
Bomb in there, everything. Wow, it was going on.
Oh, I hope I don't have a circle like that. I don't think I'm going to do nonviolent communication.
Heather, what I wanted to do is invite for feedback and processing. I want to invite you to comment on something you liked for sure about what you did, what worked, and then an area where you have a question or something you'd like to work on. That's you first. And then I'd like to offer a couple things, what I liked and maybe what to work on. And then ask Edwin and Herbert, of course, to contribute to that as well. Does that sound good to you, Heather? We'll start and do it that way. Okay. So what did you like about that facilitation? What worked for you? Like, what did you enjoy about what you did?
You definitely gave me practice on stuff that I hope I never experience, but in case I do, what I would do. And Yeah, it was good to practice it from different pieces. I can see it happening, you know, in these circles, of course. I don't know if I answered my question for myself, and I would love feedback, is that question of what if I don't feel fully heard? I don't know if I addressed that with the best response. So I would love any feedback on that I can add to my repertoire.
Good. Well, let's give that feedback to you for sure. And then I just like to say what I loved is I have such just a deep level of trust for the way you hold the group. Your responsiveness, your attunement, responding to what's happening, but also setting up the container. I don't know. I just see your attentiveness and your direct response to what's happening immediately. So there's an engagement, I guess, or you're really holding. You're right here. You're making your presence known as a guide and a host. I also like the signs and the image of a slice of cake, encouraging people to pause, not give the whole cake. I love that. And the signs like remember to pause and, time with the heart on it, like a little kindness of a prompt. I love those things. So, and I also thoroughly enjoy the way you redirected all of us. Just, firmly, but without, any shame or anything like that. But it's like, here's what we're doing here. So I did enjoy that. Now you have a question about how to respond. What if I don't feel heard? What if I never feel heard? What's going on? How can we just say that if you, for me, getting into the reality of what this circle is, it's incomplete, it's limited in time and space. We never, ever are going to be able to fully hear someone's experience, but we can get close and we can hear pieces of it. And it's always a good time to pause after a particular piece is heard. It feels good. We know that's been heard. It's okay to pause until next time, or until maybe you go and find your own support to be heard for something important to you. Who are those people in your life? This is it's a small, contained, limited space. And that's the way it is. And we can say we've been heard for at least a small piece of something, It's just kind of admitting the reality. And for me, that helps. Then I relax and acknowledge that. Any other thoughts there, Edwin, on the question? What if I'm not heard? Go ahead.
Well, I had in general, there's a few points there is about giving reflection. So if the person is saying, I'm not feeling heard, it's like, oh, I'm here. I hear you don't feel heard. Am I hearing you correctly? You're feeling some frustration. I say, yes, that's it. So suddenly they've been heard. Right? They're not feeling heard has been heard. So they are being heard. So it without explaining it too much, hear them about their frustration. And then I just hear them about their frustration and move on. It was the same thing with what we're doing here. There's a few times maybe we could have just reflected, oh, I hear you just have some comments, have some thoughts, and can we kind of hold those for now? But you're just giving a reflection of what you hear instead of too much explanation, which is kind of getting out of their empathy. It's kind of going into sort of education. It's just, putting a focus on the feeling, on the reflection. Yeah. And so I hear you're really concerned, Heather, that there's some people in the circle that will not feel heard. You're really wondering how you can deal with that issue. Did I hear you?
Yes.
Okay.
I like that advice.
Everyone is
Very
like
tricky.
And complete empathy all the time and see what happens. Empathy for education. It's like, yeah, get it. Thank you, Edwin.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. One other little suggestion I have.
So Herbert might have had something. I didn't just.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
just want to be sure.
I was going to finish
sorry.
My response to Heather, which was, you might want to start, Heather, in any group, start as the listener to model it for everybody, especially if there's new participants. You just start as the listener. Anybody can. So then you get to model the listener and the speaker first, and it sets the tone and the rhythm for the group.
Got it.
It's helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's it for me. Herbert, what did you like about what Heather did, first of all, and then any suggestions?
Okay, my comment is, I think, Heather, you are too modest. You have a kind of, at least for me, you have kind of natural authority. So don't worry about the whole setting. Your eyes will lead the whole thing. That's quite good. Because I say this because here and there you mentioned, yeah, I'm insecure, I'm not sure, I'm not this, I'm not that. Hey, you are too modest. We have a natural authority. The other thing I would like to say is, what I find interesting is maybe you are excited, and sometimes you mention it that this is very exciting for you. But again, if there is this excitement, you don't show it too much. It's a little bit like, oh, now I need Edwin to translate. Edwin, how can we translate Lampenfieber? Wenn ein Musiker vor der Bühne, Edwin, do you know what Lampenfieber is?
I don't. I know it's some kind of fever. Lumpen, I don't.
Okay.
I haven't heard that term before. Yeah, but
no. Okay. Huh. If you are a musician, yeah, and you go to the stage, before the stage, you're very nervous. Yeah.
Oh, stage fright.
Stage fright. Okay, stage fright. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is maybe there's some stage fright. Yeah. I could realize it in the beginning, but then you're in kind of flow, and it works. So don't worry about too much about yourself.
Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah, I hear you, Herbert, having similar experience to me. Just a lot of trust in Heather's presence and capacity through many small cues and things we observed. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of trust there. Did I get that, Herbert?
Yeah, right.
Cool. So Heather, any questions or anything else coming up for you?
No, it's great. Thanks.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'd like to invite you, Herbert, to facilitate an empathy circle with the topic of your choice for 20 minutes. Today we're not practicing the introduction again, unless you want to. It's absolutely fine if you want to practice that. And then also, what would you like a little bit of challenge in the group from any of us or not? Please tell me.
Okay. First of all, thank you for this chance to train and to learn. I would like to.
Before we begin, would you like any of us to offer a challenge or a disruption for you to practice dealing with, to practice with, while we're doing this role playing? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And the level of challenge, would you like it from mild to very difficult, or medium? Where would you like it? How much of a challenge?
Medium challenge.
Okay, medium option will be coming your way while you're trying to facilitate.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good. What I want to do is to do the whole, the complete facilitation from the very beginning through the end. I try my best. Okay.
Yes.
So I welcome you all very warmly. We already met in other meetings like that. So welcome, Edwin. Welcome, Heather. Welcome, Timothy. The first thing that I would like to do is to explain you the situation we are in. This kind of dialogue we are doing together, where we have different roles, and every role is taken by one. Every one of us will be in each role for a while. Okay. There are 4 roles. One is the facilitator, which is me today. So the second is the speaker. Yeah. So somebody's speaking about a topic. And then there's a listener. So the listener is listening to the speaker. And in the end, he's reflecting, he's replying in a way that the aim is that the speaker can say at the end, yes, I'm fully heard. So that's the challenge. Yeah? And there's this is the active part, and there's also one person who's a passive listener. He's just doing nothing, just listening and learning by being there. Okay, nothing else. My job as a facilitator is to next to inviting you, etc., we are there already. So I'm trying to keep the activities and the timing on track. Yeah. So, for example, if the timing is not on track, I will make this time. Yeah. So we interrupt wherever we are and try to get back into the rhythm. And another thing is, which I would like to, there's name it a code of care. Yeah. Because we all need a safe space so that we can really talk. Yeah. And again, so that's the role of the facilitator, which is me in the next 20 minutes. Then there's the speaker. There are two possibilities. One is the speaker is choosing the topic he wants to talk about. Yeah? Or we agree on one kind of topic where everyone can talk about one after the other. So for today, I would prefer if we choose one topic, and I propose the topic of how can empathy help in conflict resolution. Yeah, if there's a conflict and you try to solve it, so what is the role of empathy in such a situation? Can you agree on this topic? Is it fine for you, everybody? Thank you. Now, when the speaker is talking about it, he's expressing his needs, his wishes, his thoughts, maybe problems, whatever is coming up in mind. And please, you're asked that everyone who is speaking is doing it that way that is helping the other to understand. Yeah, and don't talk too much, don't talk too slow, don't make too long breaks, so just in the natural flow if possible. Now to the role of the listener. This is an interesting role, but because it seems to be so passive, but actually it's highly active. Yeah? As a listener, you have to do two things in the same moment. You have to listen and being clear and trying to understand what the other person is saying. And in the same moment, you have to try to be not distracted. So maybe something is going through your mind, someone is disturbing you. So to get rid of this distraction is also a challenge. So it's quite an active role, although you're not saying anything while listening. And in the end, you reflect to the speaker, trying to say what you have heard. So that's the role. And then there's this passive listener. I think I mentioned it already. He has no job except that learning what is happening, seeing and maybe learning. Okay, is everybody fine with this roles, or are there any questions? No. Yes and no. Okay. Well, let me just briefly mention this code of care. It's very important to have a safe space. We know each other already, so that's fine. We respect each other. Respect is important behavior in such situations. When we talk, we express our things in a non-violent communication. Yeah. So we don't hurt anybody. We don't debate. We're trying to keep on this dialogue setting. Yeah. And if there's silence, fine. Why not? Silence is a good thing. Can help. So, and naturally, we all respect the privacy of such talk. So we will not mention to anybody outside our group what's going on here, except we are allowed to do it, and the way we are allowed to do it. Yeah. So that's the code of care. now my question, does everybody feel safe? And can we start? Edwin?
Yeah, we can start.
Yeah.
I have some questions about the privacy issue. I didn't understand. It's like, what does that really mean? You know, what is privacy? What is, you know, confidentiality? That's sort of a big issue there that, you know, I don't really like to have kind of like limits on what I can do. So I'm kind of concerned about that. So I don't feel like I can kind of like sign off on that in terms of make a commitment, because I don't really understand what that means.
Yeah, for me, I actually like privacy, and I don't really have a lot of safety. If Edwin's going to go talk about what I said, that makes me feel a little bit less safe, actually. But no, I mean, I
Timothy,
do, but
Timothy, let me do one question after the other. It's
okay,
for me a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So Edwin first, and Edwin, privacy means that we can talk about everything which is in our heart, even very personal things. Yeah. And for that, we need to be sure that whatever we are saying is not given to third party. So nothing leaves this room here. This should give you a safe feeling.
Oh,
that okay
yeah,
for
I
you?
don't like to be in groups like that where it's all privacy. And, you know, I thought this was just like a group where we just kind of talk about what, like when I get together with my friends, I don't have like this agreement. Hey, friends, we're going to have a privacy. This is like all private. But I didn't realize that this sounds like more like therapy or something. Is this like therapy, or is this like a therapy session? Or because I didn't really realize this was therapy. If it is, I don't know if I really want to take part.
I understand. Before I answer to you, Edwin, Timothy, please give me one more minute to try to convince Edwin, okay? Now, this is not a therapy.
Oh, okay.
At least it's not planned to be a therapy. It's just a structured talk, yeah? And it's up to us to decide what we want to do, yeah? But the only thing is that everybody should respect and honor that everybody is willing to express his inner deepest mindset, thoughts, yeah. And that's why I think it's quite natural to ask everybody to keep whatever we discuss here in the room, except he is allowed to talk about. But what always can happen is if you discuss outside this room about what's happening here, if you do not personalize it, yeah, then it's possible. For example, I said the topic, yeah, and the topic is talking about empathy in conflict situations. So if you, after that meeting, want to explain to somebody, hey, we talked about this topic, I learned A, I learned B, that's fine. But don't tell Heather said, Timothy said, Herbert said. Is this okay for you now?
Okay, I'll try.
Thank you. Thanks for staying. Timothy, you had another question.
Well, yeah, I like what you said. It's like, all right, privacy is, I can talk about what I learned, but I'm not going to use other people's names. So I would agree to that if Edwin said he would try, though. He's like, I'll try, whatever. But Edwin, if you don't want to do that, I don't feel safe. But if you, I want a strong agreement from Edwin that, you know, that he's not going to use my name for what I said. I mean, it's okay if he talks about what I said, just don't say it's me. That, you know, if Edwin agrees to that, then I'm willing to go ahead. Because, you know, I want Edwin here, you know.
Okay. So,
well, okay, I agree not to use anybody's name for, yeah.
Well, I heard you say, Ed, would you try not to use anybody's name, or you?
I will not.
Okay, Thank you.
But you can't sue me if I do.
All right, I'm not going to sue.
I think.
I may not say anything, but okay, point taken, Mr. Edwin.
Okay. Thanks so much, Timothy and Edwin. I deliberately gave some time into this discussion because what we do afterwards cannot be fulfilling and cannot be good if this is not clarified. So thanks for the clarification. Everybody is agreeable. Heather, are you also agreeable? Yeah. And thanks for the patience for this short discussion we had. Thank you. All right. So I believe we can start, isn't it? One more thing. As I'm the facilitator, I have to keep track about the process and the timing. So if I have to intervene, I don't know whether this is the word, intervention, yeah? Then I just will do this, show my hand, and then you give me a moment to clarify the situation, okay? Well, let's start. So the check-in is, we have a topic. Everybody remembers the topic is empathy in conflict situations. Yeah, how does it help? Does it help? Yeah, and at first we need somebody to start as a speaker. So, who would like to start? So, I need another help from Edwin. What is the English word for Freiwilliger? Jemand ist freiwillig.
Volunteer. Who would like to volunteer?
Ah, okay. Thank you. So there's this nice word volunteer. Yeah. So I would say Heather is the volunteer to start, isn't it?
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I understand Heather is starting, right?
Oh, Heather, you said, okay, go, Heather, you're on.
Yeah.
Well, Timothy, if you want to be, why don't you get started? You start.
Are you sure, Heather?
Positive.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask Heather to
The
be.
nice thing is that I can choose between two, so ladies first.
Oh,
Please.
Come on. All right.
I don't think you know how volunteering is. Okay. Okay, I'll go first.
Timothy, as you are writing he after Timothy, I'm sure you understand what ladies first means. Yeah. So Heather.
Yeah. I have things to say about it.
Choose somebody to listen to you. You have 5 minutes to talk maximum. Okay. Maybe 4 to 5 minutes because we needed a little bit more time in the beginning, and then we change roles. So Heather, you're speaking, choose who is listening.
Okay, Timothy, will you listen?
Thank you. I would love to, Heather.
Okay, so the topic, how can empathy help in conflict resolution? It feels more and more like it's a choice to be empathetic. Like you reach a decision point where you can decide, am I too tired? Am I too stressed? Am I too angry or too overwhelmed? And maybe I don't choose that. Or am I choosing to really pause and listen to others? I'll stop right there.
Got it. Are you saying that like that choice point of what you choose to do, it's kind of like self-empathy helps you when there's conflict because it helps you understand what to choose that would be better for you in the moment? I want to make sure I got that.
Not really.
Okay, can you say it again, please?
Yeah, it's really about making the choice of, will you be empathetic and stop and listen, or will you kind of shut down and go back to old ways?
Okay, so you're just saying that it's important to recognize that we have a choice to choose to be empathetic in the moment or just to let go and go back to whatever the default action might be, habit or something. Is that right?
Yeah. And that it takes effort and energy to really choose to not speak and to listen to another person, and figure out what are ways that there might be bridges you can build or connections to create. So that's kind of how I think about it's a choice, and it can be used to build bridges.
Got it. So empathy is good for building bridges.
It can be. Yeah, that's about all I got.
Okay.
Let me mention something. It's important to learn what I'm talking to you, Heather. Sorry. It's important to understand whether you feel hurt, yeah, or if you are partly hurt, so that the other one, in this case Timothy, can learn out of what he reflected and what is okay, or maybe can be added. So I'm not trying to drag you into a discussion. That's not the point. Just to say I feel fully hurt, or I feel partly hurt, and I missed something. So to have a bit of a learning. So in the last comment of Timothy, have you been hurt?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks so much up to now. As the time is moving forward and everyone should have a chance to take part in one of the roles, I would like to change the roles now, yeah? And to that everybody has his chance in this few minutes left, okay? So Timothy was hearing, now he's the speaker. And Timothy, please choose somebody who should listen to you.
Okay. Edwin, will you listen to me, please?
Yep, listening.
Okay. Yeah, I think that conflict, happens. Conflict is humans rubbing up against each other and figuring things out, so it's normal. And empathy probably is the best way to prevent conflict, or prevent conflict that's out of control, and to use conflict as learning and for collaboration.
Yeah, so you see that human beings just rub up against each other. That's a conflict, and that empathy is a way that they can sort of work it out and kind of head it off, collaborate. And so it's the ingredient.
Yeah, and there's this belief that people think conflict is bad. In fact, it's put into our heads when we read the news and they describe murder as conflict or war as conflict. That's a deeply disturbing mislabeling from my perspective. Murder and war is a strategy to settle conflict. It's not conflict. And so I'm upset about that. And I'd like that changed.
Yes, you just feel really upset, or you feel upset that people see war as conflict, and you don't see war as conflict. It's more like a strategy to solve conflict. And so sort of an understanding, you'd like to see more of an understanding of what conflict is. And
yeah, let's name conflict for what it is, and murder for what it is, or war or violence for what it is, let's separate that. And then let's define conflict as, a difference in desires and strategies to get needs met.
So you'd like a clearer definition of what conflict is, or a deeper understanding, and how that's different from war as a strategy.
Thank you. And I would just feel some great relief if folks, welcomed conflict and turned towards it by turning towards themselves and each other for mutual well-being.
Yeah, so it sounds like you feel some stress around the way conflict is addressed, and you'd feel more relief if it was like a better, clearer understanding of how to address conflict and what it means and how it works. And
And I think empathy is a stance to approach conflict with, right? I lower my head, I listen to myself, the other person. I'm listening. It's a stance. I literally stand a certain way. And it's not aggressive, but it's not passive. It's assertive. I'm present, but I'm tuning in to listen. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, so the empathy is sort of a stance for how you sort of face conflict, and you listen, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to pause there. Herbert, guess what? Your practice time has ended for now. Yes, Herbert, go ahead.
The 20 minutes are over?
Yes, 22 minutes.
Sorry. 22 already. Okay. So as this is over, I want to finish this part with two things. One is three things. One is I just want to have this comment as whether Timothy, whether you was heard. Is it okay for you? Have you been fully heard?
For what comment?
By me, were you
No,
feeling?
I mean,
did you feel heard by me to your satisfaction?
Yes, to finish this. Thank you, Herbert. Yes, I was fully heard to my satisfaction by Edwin. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Second, I want to say, as it took some time in the beginning to start to clarify the space. Unfortunately, Edwin could not be in the role of a speaker. And so as we have no time in the moment, I really invite you, Edwin, for another round and another session. There are several opportunities so that this will not be of a disadvantage for you, at least finally. I hope this is okay for you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that care.
And thanks to everybody. It was a nice dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Herbert.
Thank you, Herbert. And now, Herbert, I would like to give you an opportunity to consider some learning that you had as you were practicing, but also some appreciation you have for something that you did and that you would like to do again in the future. So I'd like to invite you to consider what you liked. Maybe Edwin, Heather, something that you liked about what Herbert did that you would like to see him do again. So Herbert, I'd like you to go first. What did you like about your facilitation? And what would you like to do again? And then add to that, talk about other things.
It's always challenging to value oneself, but I will try.
I'm asking first. Go ahead, Herbert.
Okay. I took some time in the beginning to create the safe space. This caused a disadvantage in the end because not everybody could speak, but I think it was right to do so, and I would do it again if necessary. In parallel, I did it in I would say in a calm way. I was not getting nervous, so I think that was the good part in my facilitation.
Yes, and I would like to agree with that. Absolutely. Taking the time to create a safe space. I believe that's one of the main ingredients for empathy to happen, to flourish, the sense of safety. So I also appreciated that. Cool. Heather, Edwin, to anything that you actually saw Herbert do that you enjoyed and appreciated in terms of his facilitation?
Yeah, I liked how you made sure that each person felt fully heard before you moved on. So that was good to extra clarify. And then in the beginning, I like how you described active listening. Like you may just be sitting there quiet, but you're not. You're totally in tune. Like you described it really well to prepare them for like the full dedication to listening, which I thought was cool. Yeah, avoiding, I wrote down, you said avoiding distraction. It's not to debate, right? You're here just to be heard. I like how you said silence is okay. I thought that was really cool. I can see where, I don't know how much Timothy and Edwin were sort of acting with the whole question around privacy, but that people could have specific questions and want like a stamp of approval on that one. Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah, you seem very comfortable, very relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah, for me as well, that was like, I could feel real, we're trying to learn here, we're trying to work together. So it felt, kind of grounded from that way, and sort of like, we're going to work this through. And so it had a kind of a learning, growing sort of quality to it that kind of made me kind of feel engaged.
All right. And one other thing, Herbert, I was doing my best to try not to listen to Heather very well when Heather was talking. I was looking away, writing. I would use a couple words like, but my mind is somewhere else. So at the end of that, you said, I'd like to speak up in a moment. It's important that someone feels that they're heard. And Heather, I'm wondering if you do feel heard completely in that moment. And Heather said yes. So you went on. You didn't engage anymore, but you did catch this. Good job, Herbert. You were attuned. You were watching. You caught me trying to do my best not to listen. So I enjoyed that. That attunement, your attention was focused. So something else I enjoyed.
Another piece was at the end, you really wanted to be sure that Timothy was heard, and then you acknowledged that I hadn't been spoken to. So it felt like a real sense of care, like, oh, I really care about each person and sort of their well-being. So I thought that was really, made me feel, oh, okay, so this guy really cares about me, and if I'm heard and so forth. So that was also made me feel comfortable.
Yeah, me too. I was touched by that. I think Heather was too. Heather was nodding. Yeah, care, consideration was what I saw. Okay. So just take a breath, take all that in. Many things that we're maybe want to do again, want to continue.
Yeah.
And then also, is there anything that you noticed that you wanted to maybe change or grow for the next time? Something that you want to change. Anything coming to mind?
One thing is I'm not so sure. It's the timing. I mean, I did not have a watch next to me. I mean, I see a watch here somewhere on the screen, but I did not deliberately press the button, say, okay, now 3 minutes, because I tried to keep it to my feeling whether we are right in time or not. It did not work perfectly, so I'm not sure whether this is okay or not. Maybe I use a stopwatch. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're noticing that maybe your intuitive timing wasn't quite fully accurate, or maybe not fair, or not quite balanced. And a specific stopwatch might help you for next time.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Just making it very easy, very clear. Having a little alarm that goes off, Yeah. Okay, cool. Anything else there? Anything else? Okay. I had a couple ideas for possibilities, that something you might want to consider. When you let me see, what was it? For me, there's a balance somewhere in the middle where we take the time at the beginning to set the safe space, which for me is essential, and then when to get started just to practice and see what happens. I do, it's a balance of some sort. I think it's different with every group. And so it's just something to be aware of. In this particular example, though, I thought that you responded to Edwin and me about privacy beautiful, like very well, very clearly and supportively. As well as setting up the safe space. I like what you said, the code of care. So maybe there is just an awareness of time in balancing when to get started. So, but like I said, I wouldn't change anything this time. I would not. But there's something around that. How to find that language to say it clearly and invite a little bit of discussion and then begin. So that's one thought that's coming up for me, something to explore. How long? I timed it. I think we began the rounds 10 minutes in. It took about 10 minutes. But it was important. We're building the basic container, right? And shared understanding. So that's the foundation. So that, for me, that's the only thing that stood out. Also, I felt, actually, there's one other small thing. I felt a little bit uncomfortable when you said ladies first, and you said, I'm the facilitator, I get to choose, ladies first. For me, I would have done it differently. I would want the participants to choose between themselves. That's my style. I would want self-determination between people. So sometimes as the facilitator, I would say, well, how strongly do you feel that you'd like to speak? And sometimes I use a 0 to 5. I say, okay, 0, you don't want to speak. 5, I feel so important. Something's very important to speak now. And I say, let's rate ourselves, 0 to 5. Who would like to, and then Heather and I would say, I'd say a 3, she would say a 2. I'd say, okay, let's Timothy first, then we go to Heather. So that's one tool to use. Yeah. And then, and also the phrase ladies first, for me, in my culture at least, I value kind of an equal assertiveness or space for men and women. So, that's why I like to give the people the choice. So that's what came up for me in that moment, just around the self-determination. And the 0-5 thing has worked for me well in the past too. I'm wondering how that lands for you.
Thanks so much for that idea. I like it very much. I will try.
Yeah. That's it for me. Heather, Edwin, do you have any other suggestions or things that Herbert could consider for growing or changing? Yes, Edwin.
I have a couple of things. One, it's metaphorically, I think of the circle as a container, and how do we build a strong container? So I do try to prepare people even before they come into the circle with watch the video, maybe you could even create a German version of the handout so that people are sort of prepared in advance and have even a copy of the as a PDF. So that kind of helps a little bit prepare people to kind of build that container. When I start the circle, if people aren't familiar with the circle, I say I can be the first listener just to model the listening, because maybe people aren't familiar with it. So if you become the first listener, then you're sort of modeling it, how it works. So that kind of helps kind of build that container too.
Yeah.
The confidentiality part, we're recording here, right? So it's like, I'm like, empathy is openness and transparency, but there is a spectrum of that openness to confidentiality. And I think that that's fine, that you want to go, on that confidentiality. I naturally have sort of a resistance to that, because you're making an agreement to have confidentiality. It's like, you're kind of like, and most people, and how accurate, how truthful is that agreement? Do people really do it? There's a lot around the whole it's like, it's a whole discussion, so it's just, so I did bring it up because I did feel a little twinge. So, but it's valid if I think it's valid to have that. I don't do it, because, but per se, I don't do it, but I guess I could. So anyway, it's a little bit, there's the ambivalence. There's a bit of, there's a whole story in that. So anyway, that's just, it's not a clear-cut thing for me, but I just wanted to share that. That's why I kind of brought it up, and yeah. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 things I had.
Edwin, or everybody, there's something coming in my mind, what I learned, how I would like to share. I think there's a possibility to shorten the discussion we had in the beginning by doing the following. A good rule is the Chatham House rule. I'm just reminded of that. Chatham House rule saying is describing exactly what this confidentiality means. Yeah. So next time I will prepare the Chatham House rule. It's just 1-2 sentences and explaining this. And I think we can save 5 minutes for a discussion.
You might also send it to people before they come in to the circle so that
Yeah,
they
yeah,
know
yeah.
that they're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to, because I didn't
That's
have,
what I meant,
suddenly this was added to the confidentiality rule, and I didn't know coming into the circle that I had to sign a confidentiality non-disclosure statement. So, you know, so anyway, so if you're kind of prepared before, you know, so yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, exactly. I will take it into my yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot. Sorry, Timothy. It's just that when you bring in confidentiality, it kind of brings in therapy for me, you know, so it's like, you know, do you get together with your friends, and when your friends come over to visit, you like sign a confidentiality, you know, agreement. So I have, there's a lot around this. It's just something that's sort of, you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go into it too much. I'm taking a lot of time here on it, but it is a whole
now.
issue.
I said medium challenge,
Yeah.
not hard challenge. No, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And then I just wanted, Heather, please do share. I'm going to be right back, but and then we have open space to discuss any topic we like for the last 10 minutes. But after you share, Heather, with Herbert, you know, we'll just leave it open. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think it's all great feedback that you've brought up, and the confidentiality thing I think is super tricky. Yeah, I think the circles that I'm going to be hosting are just pretty basic. So I don't foresee any issues, but it's something really basic that I can mention. Yeah, I don't have any other feedback.
Okay. Well, we can sort of open it up then for any, you know, any discussion about facilitation. You know, the topic of conflict and empathy was, you know, the topics were, I wish we could have gone into them because they're all great topics that we could have, you know, gone into a lot deeper. So any other thoughts, comments?
It's so interesting because I'll talk a lot and have a lot of projects where conflict is coming in, how to resolve it. Yeah, but even with this experience today, Timothy gave me such a great idea, saying, "Hey, a war or a murder is not conflict resolution," and he's so right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how people are addressing conflict.
Today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the way he explained it was short, but totally clear, better than I do it normally.
Well, there's conflict, which is
he's
sort
not
of
here now.
There's conflict, which is ambivalent. So, like Heather, I was hearing you say, do you kind of keep your own community, or do you kind of reach out to the conservatives, people, others, and you're kind of going back and forth, right, internally. So that's like a ambivalent sort of a conflict right there. And those conflicts, that's just internal. They can just be interpersonal. So it's the empathy of listening to both sides back and forth, and sort of finding sort of the solution, you know, and then some kind of a solution sort of pops up. Oh, Timothy, you lost him too. So.
Yeah, it's like, it really wasn't like that example I was sharing about my conversation with that gentleman, where he was telling me that we were values aligned, which I thought was funny. But, you know, some people you can just walk away, right? You can be like, that was an odd conversation and one that I don't like, and I want to take any learning that I can from it, but I don't need to build a relationship with this person, right? Those I'm just like, you just let them go, right? Where it's someone that you are going to continue to build a relationship with, I feel like there's the energy and the investment that you then really apply to that. So I'm wondering, are there other times when, you know, you was doing so much empathy work, do you just kind of go like, okay, I bless and release you and I'm going about my business? Or do you try to like deeply understand every person?
Yeah, sometimes you just have to kind of put a boundary, I guess, on it. Depends. And we've had somebody who's like really a challenge in some of the circles, and I like the challenges. So in turn, it was like I made special time, recorded the discussions, but it was sort of related to the empathy and the training. And there's certainly other people I just don't put effort into, kind of reaching out. But everybody's always welcome to the empathy circle. Oh, is that person in the empathy circle that you were relating in an empathy circle, or just somebody you're just relating to? Okay.
Conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to bring them into an empathy circle and say, hey, I'd really like to have an empathy circle with you and even bring up some of those issues and have it be recorded too, so that you could, there's something about recording that makes it open and public. That's another thing I would say, we're going to be talking about the values of a culture of empathy, and sort of the core values that we've seen is empathy and then mutuality, so that that person you're talking to, that they're listening to you too. I don't know, Heather, are you frozen or? Wow, everybody's having computer problems. Timothy dropped out. I don't know. Oh, there you are. Yeah.
No, she's back.
Yeah, you're back.
I believe.
And frozen and back. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. And when you were talking about inviting them to the circle, and then you started.
Oh, yeah, invite them to the circle. And then that'd be one way of kind of, transferring that relationship into something where they're actually listening to you. Because I think a large part of it was you didn't really feel heard for who you were and what was for you. And you could say whatever you want, and then you hear that reflection that they would really take it in, So that might be one way to address some of those challenging relationships, to make them an empathic one.
I would like to add, which helps me a lot if I'm mentioning this in difficult situations, wanting to understand something or somebody means not having to agree with it or with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So understanding is not agreeing. You can totally disagree. Still, you can try to understand, try to listen. So having a conflict or having different, sometimes my English is not good enough, standpoints, different.
Yeah.
Should not disturb the empathy process. There's no need that disturb the empathy process, because you don't have to agree.
Yeah.
You just have to try to understand.
Absolutely. I think that's the empathy. I mean, in conflict mediation, that's what I just saw. In conflict mediation, empathy is the core ingredient to resolving conflict. I mean, it's like, and if people both trust in empathy, in an empathic mindset, it just helps so much just even head off those conflicts. So, and then if the conflict happens, you're able to, not everybody kind of understands or is willing to, try it, but it's so powerful for resolving conflict.
And I found it quite interesting, the discussion we had in the last empathy launch, which I facilitated. The result of the discussion was that empathy and gewaltfreie Kommunikation.
Nonviolent communication.
Yes, yeah, thank you. That empathy and nonviolent communication is a key ingredient for conflict resolution, but alone it's not enough. Yeah, there's also a need of. There are two other processes going on. One is I need help of my computer. Yeah, there's this process of forming opinions. Yeah. And there's this other process of finding decisions. Yeah. And in these two processes, there's a need of understanding how these two processes work. They have their own rules. So, because if you want really to have a full resolution of a conflict, not only understanding, it's also to understand how somebody can come to a certain opinion, or what are the key components of key triggers for a decision.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying is it's not only do you need for a conflict resolution is to be able to hear each other, but there's like another step. So how do you sort of take that and is that kind of it?
Yeah, but
I would say
the
that
next two steps are finding of meaning and then finding of a decision.
Oh, so there's some decision making. You need some kind
So
of
what
a
I'm trying to say
decision-making
short
process.
again, I see three processes. One is the understanding process, where empathy is key. Yeah. Then you have the opinion process, and then the decision-making process. Yeah. I mean, you always can say empathy helps everywhere, but it's just empathy is not enough. You need also a kind of
yeah, so you
I
need
missed
other
some words in
processes. Oh, maybe I could just quickly. So with the conflict, there's the empathy, try to have mutual understanding. Then there's sort of a creativity phase where you're kind of creatively coming up with solutions. And then there's a negotiation phase, which is also empathic, where you're saying, what do we do next? But that's highly empathic too, because it's like, well, I'm willing to do this, but I'm willing to do this. And then you come and you negotiate an agreed upon, sort of steps that you're going to do. So the empathy is, I see as central to all that, but there are other components. Yeah. So I don't know how that was landing with you, Heather. Just
perfect. Thank you, Edwin.
Yeah. I mean, the element of power, I think, is still present. And as a woman and, wanting to say the things, but knowing that this is a powerful man, I think there's some dynamics that we can't ignore there. And I think there's also dynamics if there's like power structures within an organization, you're trying to have an empathy circle conversation or something, or, it's just like acknowledging that there's some hierarchies there that could influence people's willingness to share trust level. So I don't think we can kind of wander in and act like it's always going to be a sharing space. So that's intriguing to me too, to acknowledge.
So when you have a relationship, there's power dynamics and that affect who gets heard and how they get heard. Yeah. And I think that's part of the empathy circle, is it kind of helps equalize some of that power, because everybody gets their time to speak, even though you might be worried that the person that's your boss, what you say, they might take retribution on you or something. Hey, everyone, we got another 5 seconds, I think, before everybody comes back.
Okay, now we are back to the whole group. Thanks, Edwin. Thanks, Heather.
Okay,
thanks,
everybody.
Timothy.
Thanks, Herbie. You gotta go.
Hi, Graham.
We're all back. We'd lost a couple of people. Something was happening. People were dropping out and having trouble getting back in. Lynette, Timothy, I don't know what the heck is going on. If there's some Zoom thing
Here's
going. So
Anatoly.
he dropped who?
Yes, Anatoly and Tim.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye out if anybody else, if you see anybody in the white room. Okay. Let's see. Bill, I think you were up.
Yeah.
Once
Okay. Okay. So we've gone through 4 sessions so far. And when we began, we talked about the culture of empathy. And the empathy circle is a practice that we believe supports that. So I want you to start to think about a culture of empathy and just see, as Edwin talked about the ripples coming out, how might this change society? What visions do you have? And also I'd like you to connect with the fact of what you might be doing is very small, in the moment with one other person or just a few, but how it can ripple out and affect the world and change the world. So again, I just want to reiterate the values we have in a culture of empathy, such as mutuality, openness, and care. Again, your interpretations. And the question that I'm going to ask you is, how do you see the empathy circle practice beginning to build a culture of empathy in your world and in the larger world? And we'll have about a minute to reflect. You don't have to be, hit everything, just kind of what happens to you and how is this going to change the world? How does this change you in your world and then the larger world? And I'll go around and call on people just to move it along. And I see Herbert, you're first up in my sights here. So you want me to repeat the question? Or I can put the question in the chat.
Yeah, I was just going to do that, but go ahead, Bill, if you've got it.
Okay.
I was looking for it.
I did put it in the chat too.
Thanks, Edwin.
Okay,
or you might want to model it, Bill, just what to.
Okay, sure, I'll answer it. I think that biologically, evolutionarily, we are geared for empathy. In my 40 years of being a special education teacher, I've seen people act horribly. I'm still scarred by things that I've seen. And so you can be exposed to that and you can think that that's the way human beings are, that we're savage, or that, given without the proper support, we'll revert to being violent. And what I saw in my experience, when we listened to children, things got better. And so what I came to think of in 40 years is that the savagery and the violence that we see is because we haven't been heard, not because, and it's the lack of love and empathy and community that is our birthright, that we don't have. And that's what creates the anger and the violence, that we know it should be better, but our world doesn't, show us that in all cases. And so that's why I think that this is a very important step. It has biological, sociological, and historical significance. And every time someone says, I feel heard, the world is a little bit better. And that's for me. And then I'll go on to Herbert.
Wow. I like what you say, Bill. Okay. Let me add the following. In Germany, in the last few years, I think that empathy was going to less empathy. Yeah. 5 years ago, we had this migrant. The question: how do we deal with these migrants? Yeah. People who want asylum. Yeah.
Asylum.
And in the last 2 years or last 1 year, we had this COVID thing. So I think this caused a situation where we have now less empathy. We are divided somehow in we do this or we do exactly the opposite. So in the moment, I see more empathy, kind of empathy deficit syndrome. On the one hand. On the other hand, I see many people who trying to overcome this situation, to cope with it. And each time something happens, same or similar what we experience here, luck, love, and warmness is coming up again. So, and finally, I want to say the same thing as Bill. It's a basic need. Empathy is a basic need, and once somebody is facilitating it somehow, and if it's just friendliness, yeah, and calmness, then it's great. It helps.
Thank you, Herbert.
So finally, I'm optimistic.
Great. Thanks so much. Heather.
You know, with empathy, I think for me, how I'm personally, and I think culturally, it's about holding space for tension. It's about holding space for all the things, all the complexities, and just acknowledging it's part of our human journey. And empathy circles are one way to have these conversations to create deeper connection and understanding, but knowing that the world is wild and ever evolving, and so are we. And so just holding space for that and letting it be okay.
Thank you, Heather. Erin? You're muted, Erin.
Sorry about that. I was trying to think of an Alan Watts quote when Heather was speaking about something like, you don't think you're supposed to be a bowl of jelly wiggling around, you know, in response to chaotic things. Of course you are. And yeah, so there's nothing like somebody feeling like somebody is there with you on that. And I think empathy allows that your humanity to be seen, and for that to be okay in the eyes of someone else, and at least, you know, have that reflected to you. So yeah, that's what came alive for me at this moment.
Thanks, Erin. Amy? You're still muted, Amy.
I'm getting on mute. I was actually looking in my book because I have a great quote. Ooh, I forgot which chapter it's in, but that talks about the importance of it. Yeah, so there's a quote by Charles Blow that talks about empathy, and I wanted to say it because it speaks very very well, but I can't find it right now because it's in one of the chapters and I can't find the chapter. But this is a really great quote of somebody that I interviewed for my book, and it says, it's by this woman, Antoinette Carroll, who is president, CEO, and founder of Creative Reaction Lab, dealing with systemic racism. How do you combat that with people with living experience? And she said in my interview, the lack of empathy creates harm, creates trauma, and creates negative systemic impact. Just like an abundance of empathy creates safety, creates confidence, creates power, and creates systemic impact. So
great.
That's what I say. That's what I would say. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. That was great. Graham?
Oh, I'm kind of concurring and resonating with a lot of things that have been said. I've spent the last 10 years deeply connected with addicts of one kind or another. And they are addicts because they get no empathy. Nobody has ever heard them, and they don't know what it's like to be heard. And this is the kind of thing that motivates me. Possibly half your special ed pupils have never been heard and don't know what it's like to be heard. And I think we're now sharing in our group, we talked about warriors and the systemic element of or opposition to empathy. Anyway, so there's a big force out there, and my thoughts are how to contribute. First of all, and this is not to be shy and withdrawn, but I need to build myself up to a position where I can actually successfully battle that systemic issue outside. And I don't want to go out racing outside today because I just fall flat on my face and then not be able to get up again. So anyway, the idea is to build myself and do it slowly. And I have all sorts of plans to actually begin to bring empathy into the outside world. And I'll tell you that a little bit later. Thank you.
Great, Graham. Love to hear about him. Claire.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I was trying to find a quote as well that I found this week in response to what Graham said, which is by one of the women who won, I think she just won the one of the awards, the Golden Globes this week. And she said that the journey to the authentic self is slower, but it means that you find the people like you on a deeper level. And I think that kind of speaks to what you were saying about just taking time. In terms of how I think it changes the culture, I find this whole process, especially our conversation today about warriors and the strength of empathy, it's really forcing patience, which is something I struggle with because I like things to happen immediately and, you know, go fast, break things. And this whole process really encourages you to slow down and to listen and to hold that space, like Heather said, for other people and for the different tensions. And I think that's what's so important. And I think the more that we can do that ourselves, the stronger we become at being able to model it more widely. And I think the more that people outside who are skeptical or cynical about empathy see that it can be modeled and see that it can have far greater, long-lasting, far-reaching impacts and bring a much more positive, enriching and empowering result, the more they're going to start changing their mindset. And I think it's slow, I think it's long, but I really think that's what it does. It's like the more people see it, the more you get in your warrior tribe of empaths.
Great. Thank you, Claire. Celine.
I love to see people when they have been heard, their bodies relax. And I trust that. It's just a natural response to being heard, to being seen. And I'm looking forward to doing more and more giving empathy circles and giving empathy and receiving it. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine. Lou.
Yeah, I agree with so much of what's been said and inspired by so much by what's been said. You know, I would say, just as a very practical matter, I have an empathic lens, looking at the world through the lens of empathy and having empathy for myself when I'm struggling and being empathic with others around me who are struggling has just been such a powerful force in my life. So I just highly recommend it, and I have a lot of confidence in it because it has I've seen it work. I've seen it transform things. I've seen what happens when someone who doesn't feel understood suddenly feels understood, the kind of shifts that can happen in relationships. So that's what I have to say.
Thanks, Lou. Linda.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the whole truth aspect of empathy circles, and that it gives an opportunity to people to be able to speak their truths without judgment and without any conflict of sort of interest, or a normal conversation is a bit combative. So I kind of think it just gives that opportunity for people to speak their truth, and I think that's really important. It's just really important to be able to be authentic and have an opportunity to hear other people being authentic, and yeah.
Thank you, Linda. Anish?
Thank you, Bill. When I look at the question, how does an empathy circle practice start the culture of empathy in my world and world around me, I think I draw two parallels. One is that I knew about empathy for a long time, but I didn't really know how it felt like. Like, I knew the theoretical part of it, but to experience empathy was a sweet, sweet joy. So first, it kind of rewired my way of understanding empathy, slowing down to listen to people. The empathy circle practice, I think, was a great way to exemplify it, like from knowing how to showing how it could be done with a group of people, especially keeping in mind how the conversations on social media is happening and many other examples, which are not really great examples. So the practice itself kind of is a great place to show how it can happen in a structured dialogue process. And I think me exemplifying it and practicing it and building that muscle and then getting more and more people involved in it, I think is a ripple effect that might lead to creating a culture of empathy. That's the big dream is. Yeah, that's how I see it. Thank you for the question, Bill.
Looks like Bill is frozen. He is. Michelle, you want to go?
Yeah, the quote that came to mind for me was when I was younger, I wanted to change the world, and like then I grew up, and it's like I realized I need to change myself, and empathy, I think, is like the most powerful tool, like to do that. Like it's the most powerful tool we have alive to do that, and like somehow when that spreads out across the world, actually the effect is the same. Like the end result is the same. Yeah, so I feel like this really small piece is part of like something that like, yeah, our generation's been called to serve in this way. Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. And Bill looks like he's frozen again. So I'll keep going. Anatoly?
Well, it looks like there's a quote, and so there's a quote I like that goes, we aren't thinking beings that feel, we're feeling beings that think. It refers to the feeling part of the brain being older than the thinking part. And I think empathy is this like ancient part about us, like so natural. Even other mammals do it, not just humans. And find empathy like to be magical. It's like kind of magic that connects people, that gives us something so meaningful. And every time I see people listening to each other and really expressing themselves, really being heard, it's just so magical. It's inspiring to me how it changes the world. Like every single time is just so powerful, and I want to see it spread more and more, and it's inspiring like everywhere I go to do these circles.
Thank you, Anatoly. Elsa Marie.
So I work on gender-based violence, which is, a silent pandemic. It affects a lot of women and girls, also men. So I'm looking at the Empathy Circle to create safe spaces for survivors, but also then they can use it as a strategy when they are in a difficult situation. And personally, I feel you can't heal somebody if you're not healed yourself. So just going through this process has helped me slow down, helped me also, take a step back, listen more deeply, and connect on on a much deeper level. So yeah, I'm excited to explore how to bring this to my work.
Thank you, Elsa Marie. Rasha.
So I resonate with so much that a lot of you have already said. And I was just thinking about how last week was my birthday week, but it was horrible. I mean, I'm one of those people who hate birthdays, and I kind of avoided calls the entire day. It was just generally a very sad week for me, because it just reminds me of, getting older. But one of the main things is that the more I get older, the more I realize like how horrible, how the world is so messed up. Be it personally, I think I'm in that phase where it's all like confusing, and suddenly, life just isn't what you expected it to be when you were younger, right? And then and then like when you look outside, it's all polarization, it's messed up comments on social media, it's a lot of like environmental issues and whatnot. It's it's really hard, right? And so we were discussing something very important today in our circle about hope, you know, and for me, Empathy Circles is just that, it's hope, right? I mean, in the midst of all this negativity, it's a place that I come to, and there's just hope over here, yeah. So, and I think that hope is very important for us to keep going. And I also feel that, you know, there is nothing, no problem in the world that empathy can't solve, right? And so, which is why I think, yeah, Empathy Circles is important. And that is how I feel Empathy Circles just build a culture of empathy, yeah. So grateful to be here today and to hear what all of you have to say.
Thank you, Rasha. So Bill, I see you're back with us. Ibtisam is next, and then I think Timothy and only Edwin are left, if you want to take it.
All right, let's see if I can, my technology holds out. Ibtisam.
Yeah, like Rasha was saying, you know, the resonance is so deep with what everyone shared. And I'm wondering if resonance is just another name for empathy, because that's how you're feeling. And the way I see these empathy circles, like, you know, what the post was, that it's so complex, it's so dynamic. And the way I see now as a facility, you know, holding a space, it feels like an orchestra, you know, like a conductor. And whereas I'm also playing an instrument, and sometimes I play a very soft one. Sometimes I want to play the brass drum. Sometimes, but I want to make sure everyone's heard and everyone has a place. It just doesn't mean that, you know, the one who's the loudest or the piano or the flute. Everyone gets a chance. And then when somehow everyone just plays and gets a chance to speak and you know, shine in what they are good at, that what their instrument is playing at that time, that is that harmony. And it just feels, God, we did create magic. And for me, that's the reason I last time touched on this word of magic and empathy. And I remember my group got very excited. That truly is magic. And I think we just lose that as we are growing up, you know, when children, we are young, we believe in hope and we really believe in magic and awe, and we get robbed of that at some point. And I don't know what is reality, but I do believe as long as we believe in magic and hope, the world has to be a better place. Yeah.
Thank you, Ibtisam. Timothy.
I'm so moved. I just wanted to invite us to take a moment of silence for what is maybe unspeakably felt in the resonance of what we're bringing our attention to right this moment. Thank you. Just to soak in this, what we're acknowledging. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Timothy. Edwin?
Yeah, thanks for that, Timothy. I could feel myself taking it in more deeply, breathing more deeply, and relaxing into that. For me, I just over and over see the benefits, the power of empathy, just to sort of it's sort of a deep level of resolving conflict, for connecting. I mean, it's like the benefits go on and on and on. And the empathy circle just seems like a sort of a basic foundational practical structure, you know, to kind of, it's like this, there's a, with, I used to be a beekeeper. So, you know, I had kept bees, and with honey, you know, honey crystallizes. And if you put a small type of crystal into the honey, it crystallizes around that size of the crystal. So it's a little bit by the empathy circles, a little bit by that crystal. If we can kind of spread it, you know, throughout the culture, I just kind of see that metaphorically, that it's kind of similar to kind of spreading it. So I'm really looking at how do we, in terms of changing the world, as you're saying, Bill, it's the larger world is to bring the world into the empathy circle. So that's, and I think that'll really be transformative, and it's something sort of practical and doable. Yeah, I guess that's my time.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Like,
go ahead,
oh,
finish
it's
up.
Edward. He's going to rant on here. We got to cut him off.
Yeah, I was off kilter there a little bit. Please finish, Edwin. Anything else you want to say?
No, that was it. That was perfect timing.
Okay. All right. Sure. All right. Well, I'll hand it over to Michelle now, and she'll describe what's going to be happening next week and as we go into our 5th and final session. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, Bill. Okay, so here are a few things for the closing. And so have we any final trainer comments?
I do have one, which is about the sessions, or the cohorts are now ongoing. So I'm going to actually move to gallery view. So would love to have you take part in the next session. It's going to be in 2 weeks. It's going to be the next one. And if you take part in that, you can become a trainee, or you can just take it again to get comfortable with the practice. So really hope you'll take part, and just kind of would get a little bit of a hands up. Who's kind of maybe considering it? Is there anybody? Graham? Oh, great. Rasha. Oh, that's excellent. Yay, I'm really happy. And then also, if you can spread the word, I'll send out an email with the links. We now have a LinkedIn group and a Facebook group for this series, session 9. So if you're on those platforms, you can actually go in there and just invite all your friends, share with them. And I'll send out more info about how to kind of, how you can kind of help keep the cohort moving forward and full. So I just wanted to make a plug for that here to hopefully kind of keep that on everybody's mind. So that's it for me. Thanks, Michelle.
Oh, thanks very much, Edwin. Lou and Bill, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
I just want to say how grateful I am for all of you. I am just filled with gratitude for all of you. Thanks. Thank you so much.
We're really grateful for all the trainers. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. I just want to say Lou stole what I was going to say. No, it's really great. And to feel that your energy is bringing this out really gives me hope. So thank you all. That's it.
Thanks for I think what we're seeing here is something like really, really magical. So yeah, so like what's coming up next week. So next week's our final week. So it's an integration of our learnings and feedback about the training. You have assignments. So we'll send out an email, one reminder to fill out the session feedback survey. The link is in the chat. Is the link already in the chat?
It's actually not. I'll put it. Let me grab it.
Sorry, apologies. I should have probably had the link ready. So I guess.
You can go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll post it in a second.
Cool. Yeah, cool. So so same as the last couple of weeks, if we hold our empathy buddy calls and try to facilitate a circle with family and friends. And yeah, so what we might all do now is just post one feeling in the chat that you have as a result of being here today. So just a word, a feeling. Oh, Erin hasn't spoken. Erin.
I did have an opportunity, though I didn't say. I was stuck on
please go. Please go. Please go.
I really did speak. I was called on by Bill, but I was busy thinking about a quote, so it probably didn't sound like much of a reflection.
Cool.
Too. So, but thank you. I appreciate it. Excited to spread empathy. And thank you, Celine. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So, and with some really good words coming in here. We've like expansive, like lighthearted morning, content, yeah, more grounded, hopeful, joyful, Okay. So I think that's peaceful. Yeah, it's been a magical. It's been another magical session. So I think we get a screenshot with jazz hands, just so that we can remember. So that we can remember
This
this
session. Yay! See you next week.
Yeah. See you guys next week. Thank you so much for
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Have a great
to my group. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye, Anthony. Bye, Anish. Bye, guys. Bye to everyone in my group.